It began with a pinch. I had been standing at the kitchen counter slicing strawberries for a smoothie, when a sudden tightness gripped the small of my back. I winced, leaning forward, pressing my palm into the curve of my spine. The pain wasn't sharp but persistent, like something had finally given way after years of quiet warnings. "Mom." Liam's voice floated in from the hallway. He walked into the kitchen still damp from practice, his swim bag slung over one shoulder, water droplets catching the morning light on his skin. His face, always earnest, pinched with concern when he saw me hunched over the counter. "What happened?" he asked, crossing the room in a few quick strides. "It's nothing," I lied. "Just my back acting up again." Liam didn't look convinced. At 18 he had the quiet steadiness of someone far older. An old soul, I'd always said. He set his bag down and gently placed a hand on my shoulder, guiding me to a stool. "I'll take you to Dr. Martin tomorrow," he said firmly. I almost argued, but the warmth of his hand settled something in me. Liam had always been caring, thoughtful. From the time he was little, he'd watch me like he was memorizing my movements. How I stirred soup, the way I tilted my head when I laughed. His attentiveness was something I used to chalk up to his sensitivity, but now it settled on me differently. Dr. Martin was kind, his words thoughtful but honest. "You've got some strain in the lumbar region. Probably from poor posture, stress, or even the lack of movement. Swimming could help, nothing aggressive. Just gentle laps, core engagement, muscle training." "Swimming," I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "I can barely float." Liam chuckled beside me. "I can teach you." I turned toward him, surprised. "You want to coach your mom?" "Of course," he said. "It'll be fun." He said it lightly, but I saw something flicker in his eyes. A quiet pride, maybe. Or something else I couldn't name. The first time I stepped into the pool with him, I felt ridiculous. The water was cool against my skin, unfamiliar and sharp. Liam stood beside me in the shallow end, calm and composed, his swimmer's body moving through the water like it was second nature. He guided me gently, his hand on my waist, another on my lower back as he adjusted my posture. "Float," he whispered. "Let go." I tried. His touch was firm but careful, his voice patient. Every time he reached for me, correcting my arms, nudging my spine, aligning my hips, I felt heat bloom under my skin. Not from embarrassment, not even discomfort, but from awareness. A sudden, unexpected awareness of the space between us, and how very little of it there was. "I didn't know it would feel like this," I confessed one day as we sat on the edge of the pool, feet dangling in the water. Liam tilted his head. "What do you mean?" "The water," I said quickly, covering the real thought that had almost slipped out. "It holds you. Like a second skin." He nodded slowly. "It's why I love it. It makes everything else feel quiet." We didn't speak for a moment. I watched the ripples around our legs. And then, almost imperceptibly, I felt his pinky finger brush against mine. I didn't move. And neither did he. I began to crave the pool. Not for the exercise, not even for the relief in my back, though it did help. But for the quiet moments it offered. The way the water muffled the outside world, how the walls of the pool echoed only our voices. There, beneath the fluorescent lights and blue-tiled silence, it felt like nothing existed except us. Don, my husband, had barely noticed. He didn't ask why I suddenly began disappearing every other evening. He didn't ask where I went. If anything, he seemed relieved that I wasn't asking him to sit down and talk, to care, to see me. "Swimming," he had said with a shrug one night. "Whatever helps you stay sane, I guess." I had nodded, saying nothing, but Liam had heard. He stood beside me in the hallway, towel draped around his neck, his jaw tense. "You okay?" he asked softly. "Yes," I whispered. Maybe I was. For the first time in years I felt something stirring. Not desire, not yet. But presence. The sensation of being seen. Our sessions grew longer. More focused. Liam took his role as a coach seriously. He corrected my posture, taught me how to breathe with the rhythm of each stroke, how to glide with my body straight and fluid. "Stop thinking," he said one evening, standing behind me in the water, his hands hovering near my shoulders. "You're stiff." "I'm nervous," I admitted. He smiled, that same boyish smile he used to give me when he was 5 and insisted on pouring his own cereal. "I'm here," he said. Then without waiting he moved behind me, hands adjusting my arms, guiding my elbows higher. I felt his chest brush my back just briefly, but the contact set off something inside me I didn't understand. My body responded before my mind could catch up. A breath caught in my throat. A tremble in my legs. I pulled away, not harshly but enough. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. Was that?" "No," I said, my voice tight. "It's not you." But the truth was, it was me. The way my heart fluttered. The heat that flooded my cheeks. The way I had begun to see him, not as my son not only, but as a man. And I hated myself for it. Later that night I stood in the kitchen, the house dim and quiet. Don had gone to bed early. I hadn't even heard him say goodnight. I stared out the window above the sink, watching the shadows ripple against the blinds. Liam's room was down the hall. I could hear the hum of music through the wall. Soft, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. My phone buzzed. A message from Liam. "You did good today." I stared at it and replied, "Only because you were there." Seconds passed. Then, "I always will be." I set the phone down, but I didn't move. My hands stayed frozen on the countertop and my chest rose with a breath that felt too large for my body. The house was still. Silent. But inside me everything was beginning to move. The water had become our secret. What began as physical therapy had transformed into something else. A sanctuary, a world apart from the dull, frictionless life I shared with Don. In the water I was someone new. Someone awake. Liam had a way of watching me when he thought I didn't notice. Not as a child watches a parent, but as someone holding their breath, afraid to disturb the fragile line between what was and what could be. I felt that same breath in my chest, trapped under the weight of confusion and guilt and something more dangerous. Yearning. He'd started asking more questions. About me. About who I had been before I became mom. "What were you like at my age?" he asked one evening as we floated in the shallows, the pool empty but for us. "Stubborn. Soft in all the wrong places. Always trying to please people who never deserved it." Liam frowned. "Like Dad." I glanced at him sharply. He held my gaze. "I see how he treats you." A pause lingered, deep and quiet. "He doesn't even look at you," Liam added, voice low. "Not the way you should be looked at." I turned away then, pretending to fix my goggles. But his words didn't leave me. They stayed with me through dinner, through the silence in the living room as Don sat on the recliner, eyes fixed on the television, never once asking me how my day had been. One Friday after another quiet dinner, Don excused himself early, complaining of a headache. I cleared the plates and Liam lingered in the kitchen, drying the glasses with slow precision. "You okay?" he asked again, his voice so familiar now in the spaces where Don's had long disappeared. I turned toward him. Something in me was tired of pretending. "Do you ever wish you didn't feel so much?" Liam tilted his head. "What do you mean?" "I mean, sometimes it's easier not to feel. To just keep moving through life without noticing all the ways people disappear while still standing in front of you." He set the towel down and crossed the room. "I notice you." That simple sentence cracked something open inside me. I looked up at him, really looked. He was no longer the boy I had rocked to sleep or read bedtime stories to. He was tall now, strong, his jaw sharp in the low kitchen light. His eyes were steady, dark with some emotion I couldn't name. "You shouldn't," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why not?" he asked. "Because I'm your mother," I said, even though the word felt like a wall between us. A wall that was crumbling every time we were alone. He stepped closer. "I know who you are," he said. "Not just the title. Not just the role. I see you." His words struck me harder than any physical touch. I backed away, not in fear but in panic. The kind of panic that comes when you're slipping and you're not sure you want to catch yourself. "I can't do this," I said, my fingers trembling as I reached for the faucet. This can't happen." But even as I said the words, I knew the truth. It already was happening. The next day I didn't go to the pool. I didn't text him. I buried myself in laundry, in errands, in meaningless distractions. And yet, every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. Saw the way he looked at me, not with pity or discomfort, but with something far more terrifying. Understanding. I didn't know how to name the thing that now lived between us, only that it had a pulse. Sunday morning, Liam found me in the garden, kneeling among the hydrangeas. He didn't say anything at first, just stood beside me waiting. "I'm trying to stay busy," I finally said, still not looking at him. "I know," he replied. "I'm trying to stay away." I looked up. His expression was full of struggle. "But it's hard, Mom. I keep thinking about how I feel when I'm around you. And I don't think I've ever felt that way with anyone." I swallowed. "That's not fair. You're young. You're confused. I've never been more certain of anything." The wind stirred the petals beside us. A leaf broke loose and fluttered to the ground. I couldn't speak. He crouched beside me, and for a long moment we just sat in silence, side by side in the garden, our shadows stretching across the earth, touching. I should have told him to leave. But instead I whispered, "Neither have I." And that, I knew, was the point of no return. It's strange how something so quiet can feel so loud. That's what it became between us. An unspoken awareness that filled the air even when we said nothing. Especially when we said nothing. A charged stillness like a thunderstorm waiting on the edge of breath. I found myself watching him more closely even when I told myself not to. The way he moved through a room. The gentleness in his voice when he asked me how I slept. The way he lingered when he brushed past me in the hallway, almost like he didn't want the moment to end. Don remained absent in every way but physically. His presence was a habit, automatic, indifferent. He sat across from me at dinner without once noticing I'd changed my hair. When I told him about my sessions at the pool, he gave a distracted nod and went back to checking his phone. But Liam noticed everything. The ache in my shoulder before I even mentioned it. The music I played while I cooked. The kind of tea I drank when I couldn't sleep. He noticed me, and that was the most dangerous thing of all. It happened again in the pool. Not a touch. Not words. But something in the silence. It was late, nearly closing, and we had the place to ourselves. The lights shimmered against the water, casting waves of silver across the tiles. I floated on my back, staring at the ceiling, trying to calm the flutter in my chest. Liam swam beside me, his strokes slow and deliberate. "Do you ever think," I asked, "that life gives us too many lines? Boundaries we're not even allowed to question?" He didn't answer right away. Then softly, "Yes. Every day." I turned my head toward him. He was floating now too, his arms stretched wide in the water, eyes on the ceiling. "I think about you more than I should," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Not like a son should." My heart stilled in my chest. "I know it's wrong," he added. "I know it doesn't make sense. But I don't feel confused. Pulled. Like I've been walking toward this without even realizing it." I should have said something. I should have stopped him. But I didn't. Instead, I let the silence deepen. He turned his head toward me. Our eyes met, and something passed between us. Slow, soft, and seismic. He reached for my hand under the water. And I let him. For just one breathless moment, I let him. After that, we didn't speak of it. But everything changed. We avoided being alone too long in the same room, only to find ourselves together again. Drawn like magnets despite the walls we tried to build. Every glance was loaded. Every accidental brush of skin was a secret. Dawn remained oblivious. But I had never felt guiltier. Not because of what had happened, but because I didn't want to let it go. One night, I found Liam standing in the hallway, staring at a photo of us from years ago. Him at age 7, beaming on my hip, his arms tight around my neck. "I used to think you were a goddess," he said quietly. "Not just a mom. Someone powerful. Untouchable." I stepped beside him. "And now?" He turned to me, eyes full of grief and fire. "Now I see you as real. And it's harder." He reached out, his hand barely brushing mine. "I don't want to hurt you," I whispered. "You haven't," he said. "You woke me up." I closed my eyes. "We can't live like this." He nodded slowly. "Then we hide it." His words didn't shock me. They broke me. As I knew I would. Summer came, and with it, a rhythm we clung to. Early morning swims, quick conversations in quiet corners, carefully measured glances at the dinner table. Dawn continued to drift, locked in his own distant world. He had no idea the love I'd stopped asking him for had found another home, in the last place it ever should have. But it was there. It was real. And even though we never named it, never crossed that line we both saw so clearly, the pull remained. In the pool. In the quiet. In every heartbeat I tried to silence. Liam stayed by my side not as a boy clinging to childhood, but as a man holding a secret. And I carried mine like a ripple beneath the surface. Some love doesn't shout. Some love drowns quietly. And still it breathes.